Totally Illiterate asks, should you trust your distributor if they say their acid is tested? No. Have you watched a single video I've ever released? You always have to test every drug before you consume it, but ultimately, trust no one. Alliib, 23, says, how do I stop feeling anxious before a trip? I've always had mostly positive LSD experiences, but every time I'm about to trip, I feel like I'm going to have a bad experience. Well, Alliib, welcome to the psychedelic experience. Most come-ups feel very uncomfortable. It's unfortunate because if you have a really shitty come-up, those uncomfortable vibes can easily transition into having a totally shitty, uncomfortable trip, because when you're in that state, you're extremely, extremely suggestible. And considering you say that you've had mostly positive LSD experiences, that pretty much solidifies what I'm saying. You're just having the normal, uncomfortable come-ups. It's kind of just part of the experience. You just gotta take the good with the bad when it comes to acid. Unfortunately, you can't really pick and choose and make these compounds affect us how we want them to. So you just really have to deal with that discomfort if you want to trip. Leo Castanguay says, why do I feel so empty and devoid of feelings 2 to 3 days after 4 grams of shrooms? Honestly, I really don't know. Usually that's how I feel a few days after LSD, after I think I've figured out all these mysteries to the universe, which could have just been my subconscious mind acting like a know-it-all god again. Because after shrooms, at least for me, I usually have this crazy deep appreciation for my life and everything that I used to take for granted, meaning the following days I feel fantastic. I don't really get any euphoria whatsoever out of taking psilocybin mushrooms, but when the experience is over, that's when I get shot, blasted sky high with this wave of gratefulness just for how incredible I really have it and how stupid I am for being a whiny little bitch all the time who complains. That's actually the best part of mushrooms, is when the experience ends. At least for me. These compounds affect everyone in different ways, and shrooms definitely aren't my favorite. They are like that really strict, tough-loving parent who is gonna rub your face in your own shit if it's the only way that it gets you to see what you need to see to make the change that you need to make to finally live the life that you want to live, which for some people could mean just living, period, because some of your bad habits are killing you. At least that's what I've experienced. So yeah, I don't know why you feel like shit after shrooms. That sucks, dude. Janahappleton says, hey, I've been tripping a lot in the last year and experiences have lost its magic. Any experience with this and a recommended break? Yeah, I definitely recommend taking a break, man. That will serve you well. Sam Graham says, have you ever thought about trying datura or another delirium? You mean deliriant. Why am I such a grammar Nazi? Well, Sam, I've never considered trying datura because it's very easy to make the wrong dose, considering you're dealing with plant matter and potency can vary from flower head to flower head, and it's quite possible to be left with irreversible negative side effects. Now, I have had some very interesting delirium experiences myself, not on Benadryl, but just with alcohol. This would actually make a great video on its own, how when you overdose on alcohol, you really can go into a very delirium state. I mean, in the sense where once I went to take my dick out in a hotel room to start peeing against the wall because in my mind, in my eyes, I was in a urinal. Like I full on had visual hallucinations from being shit-faced drunk. 3CB3 says, how and why did you get into the use of psychedelic drugs, and did you choose your first drug? If so, why? Yeah, I guess I chose it. I mean, it's not like someone tied me to a chair and just like fed them intravenously through my arms. The first psychedelic drug I tried was something that's not considered necessarily psychedelic. It's kind of like semi-psychedelic. It would be MDMA, which does showcase psychedelic properties in high doses, which could arguably be just because at that point, more of the MDMA is converting into MDA. I think on average, anywhere from 10 to 15% of the MDMA converts into MDA, which is far more neurotoxic. Now, I assume that you don't mean semi-psychedelic things. I think you mean stuff like LSD or shrooms. And now the first thing I did try was LSD, just because the guy I got MDMA from said that he also had acid. And he told me that it was some double-dipped magic. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll buy your fake nonsense of double dipping, whatever the hell that means. And I really had no idea what to expect. He didn't really tell me anything. He's just like, yeah, man, you're in for a crazy ride. And I was like, yeah, all right. I was insanely arrogant. I just thought it was going to be like a fun, colorful, maybe warm experience. What hatched was close to terrifying. Mind you, I didn't even do an ounce of research. Part of the reason why I started the channel is to show people through my past fuck-ups how to not be like me. But anyway, long story short, I swore I'd never touch it again after that because it was so terrifying, and I had to be at work on a brand new job the next morning, and I had taken it at like 12, so I had to go to work, obviously still tripping on the first time I've ever tried a psychedelic substance. And the only reason I tried it a second time, and it's thanks to that second trip where I got an inkling that there was some magic, some way that I could use the experience to better my life, and it was thanks to my girlfriend wanting to try it. I don't know why the hell she wanted to try it. I told her it was terrifying, and she was like, yeah, sounds interesting. It's like, okay, well, if you're gonna trip, I gotta pretend to be the tough guy and trip with you. Ricky Herrera says, what is one drug you regret taking? Smoking cigarettes. Nicotine. Everybody's Dog says, what is the best advice you can give to a trip sitter who is experienced in tripping but new to sitting? Be overly cautious of how you sound. Try to talk to everybody like you're a parent and their kids. Remember to just leave them alone and let them know that if they need something, they can come to you. Make yourself very easily available. And when someone is displaying characteristics of falling into a bad trip, don't ask them what they think will make them feel better, because they probably have no idea, or what they think is wrong. You just need to gently take them by the hand and guide them often to a new location. Try putting on some happy music. If they see that you're calm and in command of the situation, they're more likely to calm down and feel okay. Remind them that they're okay, it's gonna pass, it's just temporary. What you really wanna do is help elicit calm, happy memories, which will in turn get them out of the potentially negative thought loops they find themselves circling around. Meta Solara says, do you miss your hair, or are you happy with the array of hats? Well, I'd say I'm quite happy with these hats. It's kind of like a fake hair without going full wig mode. I'm totally fine being bald. Funny story, it was actually thanks to losing my hair that I became less of an idiot with women. Girls found me more attractive, even though to me I didn't feel like I was any more attractive. Maybe it's because when I had hair, I was a douchebag in the way I styled it, and I just looked like an idiot half the time, so thank goodness that shit had to go. Anyway, I will continue pretending I have hair with these hats and just completely overwrite everything I just said. A booty-wearing fairy. Whoa, what a name. Let's check this girl out. Oh, it's a dude. Oh, and his name's actually Boot-Wearing Fairy, not Booty-Wearing Fairy. What the hell was I thinking? Boot-Wearing Fairy says, Adam, what do you believe the entities are that you meet on DMT? Are we accessing another realm in which we meet the divinity itself, or is it an internal physiological representation in which we meet ourselves? Or is it something else? The fake scientist in me would really like to say that it's all just happening in our mind. However, the me that's had those experiences would tell you it's definitely not. However, the me that actually had those experiences would say that it's definitely not just happening inside our mind, that it's the opposite, that it's the one substance that seems to pull your consciousness out and through, like you're cracking open kind of like you're making a tear in reality, as if you just converted it to a 2D piece of paper and you just go and then just walk right through it. It's a very strange feeling, and only those who have had the feeling can fully relate. And putting my hands here makes me look really crazy, so I'm just going to keep them like this. Where we become convinced that we actually did go somewhere outside of ourselves for no other reason other than that's how it felt. And the fact that it feels realer than real, which there's really not a word for that, because realer than real doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's one of those things where I confidently believe that if everybody had that breakthrough experience, I don't mean everyone smoked DMT, because it's a misconception that if you smoke DMT, you're going to reach that breakthrough. There's a lot of people who smoke it and never hit the breakthrough. So I mean specifically that experience that takes strength to reach. It takes a lot of courage to break through. I've only known one person who ever did it their first go, and man, she was freaking amazing. But if everybody did have that courage, which is not going to happen, and if everybody did have that experience, then I'm certain our world would look very, very different. Aaron McDixon says, why don't you have hair? Well, that's a good story, Aaron. It fell out. Our dentist says, how do you know when you don't need to trip anymore? Well, you just know. For most people, this happens after something particularly traumatic, which scares them away from tripping. And yeah, that's usually the nail in that coffin. Even people like the late, great Terence McKenna, a lot of people don't know this, but when he was giving all of his lectures and talks, he actually wasn't tripping at all. He had a very intimidating mushroom experience, I think it was in the late 80s, which scared him away from ever touching psychedelics again. I mean, that's how bad it was. The guy who was a huge proponent of these experiences and going around sharing all these stories wasn't even tripping himself because they scared the fucking bejesus out of him. So how's that for irony? Keen Blazem Fall says, I'm scared of LSD and shrooms, but I want to try them. What should I do? Join the club, dude. I'm scared too. Takes me months to work up the courage to have an acid trip. The last one took over a year to work up the courage to, because I knew that once I dropped that paper square, I was going to be shown some truths that I couldn't escape. And I was comfortable. Didn't want the discomfort, even though I knew the discomfort was what I needed to make the change that was going to allow me to level up. Because God knows I was leveling down. I was regressing, baby. But what I would suggest you do is figure out what your real reason is for wanting to try them. And if that reason trumps your fear, then you will try them. And if it doesn't, then it means, I guess, it wasn't a good enough reason. Keep in mind, you can also safeguard yourself by always having things like trip killers handy, like benzos, which really are effective for killing a trip. Within 20 minutes of me taking something like diazepam, I am totally back. It's scary how back I am, and I'm usually back more than I want to be. It's like, no, I wanted to keep a little bit of the trip, and it's just gone. Evaporates like water on a boiling pan. Just trip, gone. And also making sure that you're never alone. Even with benzos, being alone is a bad idea. You need a tripsitter that you can trust. Bassin, my heart says, do you think before you took drugs you were a different person, and who did they change? And who did they change you? Sorry for my bad English, I'm German. Well, apology accepted, no worries. I guess you mean how did they change you? Well, it got me to really truly see what was probably obvious to everyone else looking in on me. And once I could see it from their perspective, it took me out of my arrogant, hedonistic view of the world and, life, and it forced me into their shoes. And it's something that is very unique to psychedelics that I've never seen with any other drug, and it's probably the reason why they are so amazing at healing trauma and pain. Because they force you to see things from a new perspective. And the problem with a lot of people, why they're stuck in the loops they're stuck in, is because it was the same thinking that got them into the loop that they're trying to get out of the loop. You can't use those same thought patterns. You got to create new ones. And good luck trying to tell someone to do that, especially as they get older and the neural net in their brain solidifies and it becomes harder to implement changes. As you age, it gets harder and harder to rewrite bad behaviors and fix flaws to the point where the way our society really is designed is for a lot of us to get more and more bitter as we age. So psychedelics have tremendous potential for healing. It's one of the bigger reasons that I am a proponent of people using them wisely and correctly, because if it wasn't for psychedelics, you would be seeing a very different person here. That's not to say that I still don't get flashes of that old dude. Like I said, you're never done growing, and success doesn't look like a straight line. It zigzags, and sometimes you think you've reached this new high only to drop lower than you've ever dropped before. You really just have to have a very steadfast attitude and an optimistic, glasses always half full kind of mentality to make it. Man, this is too itchy. Kawaii Blackbirds says, how was your day? Also, what is your favorite substance? Well, thanks for asking. My day was pretty crappy. I mean, this morning was cool. We went to the trampoline park with my son. He absolutely loved jumping around. But yeah, I don't really want to get into the rest. As for my favorite substance, I really don't have one. I really do see a lot of these drugs as tools, and they each have their own personality and something that they can help you with. And really, it's just about using the right tool at the right time to fix the right problem. I mean, you wouldn't use a hammer to tighten a bolt, would you? Kodafun says, how old are you? I don't know, guess. Leave your answers below. How old do you guys think I am? Hold on, I gotta put the hat back on. Pretend this is hair. I look much younger with hair, so yeah, how old do you think I am? Psychedelic Journey says, can you have a DMT trip naturally without taking DMT? Are you following that thought that DMT is naturally produced in the brain, which I mean, it's found in the brains of rodents. It hasn't been found in the human brain, but that's not to say that it still can't be produced by the elusive pineal gland, that little third eye nut back here that opens up and shoots you full of a kick of DMT when you die. At least that's what people like to parrot. But regardless, I'm going to say no. I don't think you can have a DMT trip without taking DMT. That's like saying, can you get in a car and drive somewhere without getting in a car? All right, let's finish off with something really strong. I'm trying to scroll through these comments. Oh, here's one. Andrew Bassetti says, have you ever done heroin? No, never tried it. Anyway, I really want to answer more of these because there's just so freaking many, but I'm going to have to do another video where I touch on more because it's like, wow, you guys have a lot of questions for me. I definitely am going to do more Q&As. So these were Instagram questions. So if you want to join the PsychedSubstance Instagram page, which really isn't anything special, I think my posts are crap, to be honest, you can find the link below to my Instagram page. But if you have questions for the next Q&A video, leave your questions below. Write a comment and let me know what you'd like me to answer. Anyway, till next time, take care, guys, and I will see you all later. Always test your substances. Test kit link in description. Peace out.